Hi guys! To those of you who celebrate every single holiday like me, and whether you're celebrating with friends or lovers, happy Valentine's Day. In honor of Valentine's Day, I wanted to do a video about the 5 biggest fights that I've ever gotten in with my husband due to cultural differences. Since Valentine's Day is supposed to be a romantic holiday, it may surprise you that this holiday makes me think of cultural differences and arguments. But as a loyal American, I love celebrating all holidays. I mean, we even celebrate the 100th day of school in the US. There is no holiday too small to celebrate. My husband, as a loyal Frenchman, tends to think that holidays aren't usually worth celebrating and that Valentine's Day is kind of a joke. So you can imagine the arguments that we started to have at the beginning of our relationship when I wanted to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, Easter, Valentine's Day, and deck out our house in decoration and have themed dinners for days. And he wasn't so into it. So Valentine's Day now has a little bit of a different signification for me. So today I'm going to talk to you about the 5 biggest fights that we've had due to cultural differences. Don't forget to leave your comments below. I would love to hear some of the big fights that you've had, and especially if you've got some fights due to cultural differences. All right, let's get started. Planning a wedding for couples can be pretty challenging. I mean, we're not all wedding planners or party planners for a living. And planning a wedding with 2 people that are from different cultures can be rough with all capital letters. I'm part of the team. I love my husband, I love my wedding day, but I will never, ever plan a wedding again. In the US, we have a very strong marketing culture about weddings, and I feel like from a very young age, there was bridal stuff being thrown at me, which meant that by the time that I was in, my late 20s, my early 30s, and I was ready, getting married, that I had a very, strong idea of what I thought my wedding was going to be like, and there were all these codes, like the guy who was going to ask me to marry me would, ask my father first, or he would definitely ask with an engagement ring, and this was going to be the best day of my life. And then I met my future husband, and he didn't necessarily have the same feelings. He didn't think that he needed to ask my father ahead of time, and he really thought it was important that the first person who knew that he was asking was me. He didn't necessarily want to have a ring already picked out, and he thought that was something we should do afterwards. He didn't ever think that getting married should be the best day of his life because having children or there's so many other things to look forward to in life, so having a wedding couldn't be. So already our ideas about a wedding were very different based on our cultures and of course a little bit of who we are. But then when it actually came to planning the wedding, we realized how many differences there were. He felt like a wedding should go on until 6 a.m. in the morning, and there would be a sit-down 3-course meal that lasted 5 hours. And I was like, wait a minute, weddings in the US finish at midnight, and how about a buffet? And how about a faster wedding and maybe not such a long dinner? And he wanted really nice champagne, and I was like, wait, where's the beer? And we just were not on the same level. And a lot of those, as I said in the beginning, planning a wedding for lots of couples, whether you come from the same culture or not, can be complicated. But some of our biggest fights about the wedding really came from different notions we had growing up and different things we were exposed to, and our wedding was definitely a compromise of all of the different cultural things that we thought we needed for our big day. My husband grew up in a social security system where you pay in every month and then healthcare is affordable for everybody. And I, of course, in the US grew up in a different healthcare system where I'm very used to paying money up front for medical expenses. Now, if you've seen my video about reverse culture shocks and the things I don't miss about the US, I'm not here saying that I love the healthcare system in the US, but I am more used to paying up front for things. And when we found out that we were expecting and we were talking about the delivery, I really wanted to know the doctor who was delivering our baby, and if possible, I wanted it to be in English. And the only way that you could do that in France was if we were in a private clinic or a private establishment. And my husband was adamant that we should be in a public hospital. It is great health care. It is quote unquote free. I mean, we already paid for it. And to do something private would just mean that we're, paying even more money. And why would we do that? Because the care wouldn't be any better. And of course, I'm sitting here being like, I want to feel secure. I want English. I want to know somebody. I want to know my doctor. And it was a huge fight. At the end of the day, we found a good compromise. We did not go with an English American delivery, and we didn't go with a public hospital, but we did go with a private clinic. But that was kind of a huge cultural difference that was hard for us to kind of pass over. Food is a continual one. So there's not one big fight about food, but it's kind of throughout our entire relationship, food has been a bit of a tension starter. I remember at the beginning, it was more the fact that like I love pizza, I'm obsessed with pizza, and I would have pizza like twice a week, and Robin would be like, that is so like inappropriate, you shouldn't be eating so unhealthy, why do you eat that? And I'd be like, wait a minute, you just brought home for like the 5th time this week a full baguette that I know you just ate, so even if you ate a full baguette with soup, that doesn't mean you're eating healthy. And then we started visiting my family in the US, and that even brought on some more problems because Robin would walk around the grocery store with his Yuka app, and he would be rating all of the different food in the grocery store and being like, those Cheeto Puffs, Kate, those are, 20 out of 100, like, don't put those in the cart. And I mean, I completely agree with him. The French generally have a better, more well-balanced diet than Americans. I think we can all agree. But food is really nostalgic, and I've been living in Europe for 10 years, and I've been in France for 9 years, and so when I go home, sometimes I just want a Cheeto, and I just want to have a Cheeto without hearing how bad Cheetos are, or how bad macaroni and cheese is, or how powdered cheese isn't real cheese. I'm like, and it just doesn't stop. And it was even a problem at one point because my husband, loves the food in the US. It's great, but he eats the same thing that I eat. So when I'm eating bad food, he's eating bad food. And you can see he wrote an article on my blog that's called 11 Days, 11 Pounds. And it was about the weight that he gained when he visited the US over Christmas one year. So I'm always trying to, be a little bit more careful about the type of food that we're having. But even when it comes now to having a baby together, he made a comment the other day, in France, we have a goûter at 4 p.m. And the goûter is usually like applesauce, or, that's what we have at the snack. And I'm like, oh yeah, when I was little, we would have like apple slices and then maybe some peanut butter on crackers. And he was like, we're not giving like our daughter peanut butter on crackers for a snack. And I was like, yes, we are. And we're not completely on the same page. And I think this is going to be an ongoing thing. I salute you, France. You have a way better diet, but sometimes I just want to slather a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and munch into it. I know this is a really sensitive topic, especially with the amount of mass shootings going on in the US. My husband and I never fight about what we feel is necessary in terms of gun control in the US. We have very similar views, but where our views do differ, it's about having hunting rifles or hunting guns in our home. My father grew up in the Midwest in quite a poor family, and he would hunt with his father and with his family in order to also supplement meat and food on the table along with normal grocery shopping. So my father has hunting rifles that are special to him, that he feels are like family memorabilia and that he would like to pass down to his kids one day. For my French husband, he does not feel, no matter what the circumstance, whether the hunting gun we don't have any ammunition in the house, whether they don't work anymore, whether they're expensive, whether they're special, family memories, he really strongly doesn't feel that hunting guns have any place in our home. I know the gun policy in the US is very different than, in France and the rest of Europe, but France is actually one of the European countries with the most hunters. And I kind of thought, because of that little trivia that I knew thanks to my dad, that, Robin might be a little bit more open-minded to the fact that we could possibly one day have a hunting rifle in our house, and boy was I wrong. So there was no compromise on that one. And I don't think there will be any going forward. But that was definitely something that I'm really sure is a big fight due to what we grew up with and what we kind of saw as the norm in our own cultures. Moving to a less sensitive topic, but still a topic of tension, is Christmas gifts. My husband loves celebrating Christmas in the US. He loves the decorations, the lights, the stockings, the Santa Claus. He really loves coming here. But when he did come to celebrate his first Christmas, he was really shocked by one thing, and it was the number of gifts that we actually had on Christmas Day. My husband felt like it was just too much stuff, too many things. It was just an overload of stuff, and he felt like with so many things, you didn't really appreciate the actual gifts behind it, and especially when it came to the kids in our family who were opening gifts. At first, I couldn't really figure out or understand what he was talking about, because when I grew up, what was so fun about Christmas was having so many gifts to open, and it was this big tree with so many gifts under the tree, and we were a big family of 6, so there was just piles. And what I was saying to my husband, but no, you don't understand, there's so many sales in the US, and it's really a culture where it's quantity over quality, so it's not that it costs so much money. And he was like, no, it's not the money, it's the fact that we don't need all of this stuff, and it doesn't need to be about actually materialistic things when it can be more about experiences, or about less stuff, or more quality stuff. And he said, when we have kids, we're not going to be giving them that many gifts. And I was like, what? Because when I was growing up, I just have these ideas of, oh, but as a kid it was so fun, or oh, as a kid I did this. But what's so funny is now that I've been living in France for so long, I really completely agree with him that the quantity of things, and it's really interesting because even Robin's kind of Frenchness and Europeanness and some of mine now is starting to wear off on my family, and now we do more experience stuff and we do less number of gifts at Christmas. And so it's nice to kind of see the balance of our two cultures coming together. But at the beginning I was like, oh hell no, we will be having a big Christmas tree with lots of gifts, and I'm now eating my words. Be really challenging being in a bicultural relationship and trying to mesh those cultures together, but it's also super rewarding when you get to compromise a bit and open your eyes to new things. So don't hesitate to leave in the comments below any fights you've had about cultural differences, and have a very happy Valentine's Day, and I'll see you next week. Bisous!